Hello, my name is Miguel Duran, and I'm joined here with the ever so awesome Morgan Ray.
Hello. Hi.
This is the first interview of many, and I hope you enjoy. If you guys could like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Enough with the intro. Now let's go ahead and allow our guest to introduce herself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Morgan Ray. I do a lot of things. I'm a content creator on TikTok. I'm best known for my OF. I won't say the full name in order to try and avoid this getting, any strikes or anything. But I primarily have a platform that's actually built on, a combination of, spicy stuff and also business and career advice for people. So I kind of mesh those two things together, and that's my niche.
I see. How does that align with your goals or beliefs?
Um, so there's a few different ways that it does. So one of the primary goals of what it is that I'm doing is that a lot of the time when people watch spicy content in general, it can have some like negative psychological effects for people. And so I'm kind of trying to bring this thing where it's like, it's positive and you feel good after watching it, because so much of it is just like me talking, but it happens to be spicy at the same time. And I think something that has ended up happening with my industry, the spicy industry, I guess, is that it was kind of built back when the idea of having this like fantasy girl that just does anything and wants everything done to them was like something that you couldn't find in real life because it's not real, and but it's kind of flipped a little bit now, where people end up like basically growing up watching this kind of content. It ends up setting a lot of people up for failure in relationships and with their expectations for relationships. And it's not just men that are affected by it, it's women too. But then they end up getting into relationships and they end up finding themselves really unsatisfied because they've kind of pursued something that's a fantasy and something that's not real. And that's why things like amateur content has become so big, because it's like the fantasy now is no longer what the industry was selling previously. It's now like people want things that are a lot more aligned with reality, and people who actually have just seem like fully fledged individuals within this type of content. And so there's already sort of been this push to like bring that kind of stuff to the surface through like amateur content. But then I took it even farther, and I was like, I'm gonna kind of create a community that's really built around me being entirely authentic with who I am. I never fake anything, and I never if somebody says to me like, oh, tell me about like if I did this thing, if I came to your house and I did this thing, what would you do? I would be like, I would call the cops. And I would like occasionally people will still like join my community and think that they're gonna get this fantasy person, and it's like that's not what you get with me. And if
All make believe.
and if somebody sends me like a photo and they're like, do you like this? And I'm like, it looks like you live in a 7-Eleven bathroom. Like this, I said that to somebody one time. But like, you're gonna get something that's really like real and authentic and not bullshit. And I think that that's something that a lot more people are starting to do, and that a lot more people should do within this industry, because like it really sets you apart, and it's so beneficial. There's so many benefits for your audience to interact with somebody who's actually going to like respond in a way that a real human being would, but with no stakes, and like there's nothing to lose. It's and so that's kind of how I ended up getting into this and creating this platform that I have.
I feel you. I actually I found you on TikTok, and
Okay.
the comments on your lives and on your TikToks just they're out of pocket, if I'm being honest. they're really out of pocket. I gotta know what's one that just stood out, or a couple, that you just remember to this day.
Oh, someone said it looks like Jimmy Neutron, and that one's never left my mind. Like anytime my hair happens to get like that. Um, well, I think the most out of pocket ones that I ever got actually weren't on TikTok. It's probably through my Reddit DMs, which I don't have Reddit anymore. Um, but there were two people who basically just wrote me fanfic about like a life that they had imagined with me, like many paragraphs long fan fiction.
How many chapters would you estimate? Like, are we talking like a Harry Potter novel, or
It wasn't quite that long. It was probably like like a short story,
Mm,
but it was so weird, to get like messages like that, where it's like, people will get on my TikTok live streams and they'll be like, mommy, and like tell me to jump, things like that. That's a really common one that I
well,
get.
trust me,
Um,
I've seen your lives.
yeah, and so people will be like kind of wild and out of pocket there, but it's actually nothing compared to what I was dealing with on Reddit. The people on Reddit were taking it to a real weird place.
I imagine.
Yeah, I got multiple times, like, people DM me asking if they could mail me bugs to step on, and yeah, that was not gonna happen. You know, but yeah, that was another interesting one that I got at one point.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope I never get DMs like that.
The fact that it happened twice was weird.
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah.
Are you looking for any specific outcome with with your content, I guess, business, or what's your end goal?
Okay, so there's, I guess, kind of two goals that I have here. One of which is to sort of create this community that helps promote and manifest real, like actual genuine, like relationships and sex advice that isn't fake. It isn't just like, me, blowing smoke, trying to like gas someone up. It's like, if somebody describes to me what they're dealing with and it sounds like they've kind of got like some incel mentality going on, or like some misogynistic stuff that they need to work on, like, I'm going to be real with them and I'm going to be honest with them and help them kind of, come out of that. And something that's really important when it comes to doing things like that and having those conversations with people is to not be accusatory, and to not be judgmental, because it will just instantly push them away, if you try
That
and
is a
do that.
very vulnerable state for someone.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and something that a lot of these people that join my community have experienced is that they really want to understand how to interact with women, how to have good relationships, how to have a better sex life, but a lot of the time when they will try and talk to women about it, they sort of get like judgment or frustration. And a lot of it is super valid from the women's standpoint. Like it's not women's job to like teach men how to be. But it is something that is important for some people to be willing to do, and it's something that I just kind of found myself actually being pretty good at, and not really judging people for where they're at, and it's not something that everyone would want to do, but it's something that I have just personally found to be really fulfilling. And the other thing is just to help people overcome insecurities in a really holistic way. And so that, it isn't just with relationships and dating, insecurity and, a self-doubt is something that manifests itself in all areas of your life when you're dealing with it internally. And so I also help people with career things, and that's actually where I kind of started this thing where I'm sure you've seen this thing of, I tell people, hey, if you go out and get a job in tech, I'll give you a free year of membership. And what that's done for so many people who it ended up working for, it's worked for, I stopped counting at 80. It's been over 80 people who've gotten jobs in tech with that offer now. Yeah, and And what has ended up happening with it is like, even with the people who ended up going into tech and they were like, I don't actually like this that much, but hey, it pays more than the last place I've sat. And I don't want to be that person who glorifies the tech industry in any way other than saying, hey, it's probably going to pay more than what you're doing right now. They get back to me and they say, hey, this made me feel so much more confident, just knowing like all I had to do was try. And that positive reinforcement of being willing to take that risk even though you don't believe it can actually work, and then having it work, that it makes a huge difference for people to have that happen, and even if you end up getting rejected, it's a data point, it tells you how to move forward better in the future. And helping people be able to deal with rejection, handle rejection, and also run the risk when there is a possibility of rejection is something that I try to really encourage within my community as well.
Thank you. Now we are gonna, since you brought it up earlier, we are gonna talk about mental health later on in this
Okay.
in this thing, because I think that's a really big topic that me and you will enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Did you see yourself doing anything like that you're doing now as a kid? Like what was the
So yes and no. I was actually fairly young when I was like, hey, I think it would be fun to do spicy content. And actually, I think I started when I was 18, and it wasn't like it was, a huge part of my life when I was 18. And also, I just want to throw this in there. I wouldn't really encourage anybody to go into this industry when they're younger than 21. And even then, it's worth waiting a little bit longer because, being in this field is it's not for the unhealed. And same with being a content creator. It can just bring out like any insecurity you have. It's gonna get exacerbated. You need to already have the skills to handle that, and to handle criticism and to handle hate. But when I was young, I wanted to go into tech, and I wanted to learn how to code, and I actually still do tech work. And this is something that I don't really bring up all that often. Primarily the reason is that I do websites, but I try to keep the people that I work with confidential. And not talk about it because of the kind of work I do. I don't want people who follow me to end up going and like harassing my clients. And so, yeah, but I did really want to get into tech, and it took a few years after high school for me to get into it. But, my entire platform is kind of, the tech side of my platform is really based on the fact that I managed to get into the field with no degree and no experience, and it's actually not that challenging to do it. So that's really kind of what I've been trying to help people with. I wouldn't say that I knew I was going to end up, combining those things. I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but that's something that ended up happening. And it actually, I chose to make that happen when OF made that huge announcement that they were gonna remove all explicit content from the platform. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, back in I think.
Yeah. So when that happened, my first response was, well, I got to find a way to continue this platform, and so I just have to pivot. And this is something that happens in business all the time. And no matter what version of business you're in, random shit is just going to come out of nowhere, and you have to be able to pivot, and you have to be able to handle that pressure in the moment and go, okay, rather than trying to fight back on them, because that's not something I can control. I can't control what the decisions of this platform are. I need to be able to be adaptable. So that's kind of,
I think that's one of the best skills to have. I believe it's a soft skill.
Yeah.
I believe that's one of the best skills to have, because I mean, you could be proficient at one thing, doing it a certain way, but you should be able to adapt. You should be able to adapt to the circumstances. Sometimes things change that are completely out of your control, but you
Mhm.
just got to be able to, come up with a solution that's not too out of pocket.
Right, and it's also not wrong to try and communicate with a platform or fight back on a platform and say, hey, I want decisions to stop being made without my consent. I want these changes to be clearer. I want creators to have more input. I think that is also a fight that needs to happen. And simultaneously, as a creators, anybody whose business is based on social media, you have to also accept that there is a chance that they will never listen and nothing will ever change. And these changes are just going to keep happening. And something else is every time a social media platform makes a huge change or releases a new feature, it's going to get pushed really hard, and you get the opportunity when it first comes out to be the person who adapts to it while everyone else is complaining. And you're going to set yourself up for a lot more success if you're the person who chooses to just use the feature, even if the feature is stupid. You're gonna put yourself in a much better position if you just choose to adapt. So, like an example, two good examples. Recent example of that would be Instagram Reels. Everyone shat on it when it first came out. Every freaking person was like, people were like, Reels are stupid. It's not gonna work. They're just trying to compete with TikTok. They'll never compete with TikTok. But if you were someone who adapted to Instagram Reels when it first came out, you got so much free real estate. You got so much boosted attention on your platform if you chose to just use the feature that everyone else is saying was stupid. And it is stupid. Reels is stupid. I don't like Reels. A lot of people don't like Reels, but at the end of the day, it works. And it's something that everyone else is just going to shit on, but you get the choice to adapt. And the other thing that's happening right now is TikTok stories. Everyone hates TikTok stories, and people are complaining about it, saying it's dumb. They're just trying to compete with Snapchat. It doesn't matter. Like, unless you are on the board of TikTok, whether or not that decision is a good business decision on TikTok's part is not your problem and not your business. But you do get the chance to say, hey, even though I don't like this feature and I think it's a stupid decision on TikTok's part, I know for a fact, because this happens every time, that TikTok's going to be pushing this feature out like crazy and I can get a bunch of free real estate. That's probably my biggest like adaptability message that I try and give to people when it comes to social media is when a new feature comes out, you're going to think it's dumb. Everyone's going to think it's dumb. Everyone's going to shit on it, but you got to use it because it's going to get you so much boosted visibility.
Shoot, got to take risk.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest things I've always been told is just take risk, take calculated risk, but don't stay comfortable doing what's normal in a sense. Because if you do what everybody does, you're going to get what everybody got,
Mm-hmm.
Probably a better way to say that.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like a personal question from like your younger days, I say high school. What kind of person were you? And there's like different kinds of people, like there's the people who sit alone at lunch, you got the jocks, the cheerleaders, the I don't know, like the Harry Potter club, all types of things. Like what kind of person were you?
Oh my God, I was a very bitter, angry person in high school.
No.
I was a really angry person. I was like, I'm a millennial, so I was like a hipster, but worse. So I was that person that was like, I don't want to like anything that anyone else likes. I need to be completely unique. And I mean, the whole thing was just like, in me being very deeply insecure and wanting to, I kind of would create this thing that, I could find my security in, which was being different from everyone, but it's actually just a form of self-sabotage to make sure I would never fit in, because I just felt so deeply insecure. And it's something that I still occasionally find myself falling into, like, making fun of things that are popular. But then at the end of the day, I actually really like the thing and like I love Keeping Up with the Kardashians, for example.
Oh,
It's such a stupid show, but like, it was one of those things where like, I was just like actively a Kardashian hater. And then it was like, I need to like check myself and be like, it's okay that I just like this thing that's popular.
it's like a
And
closeted Kardashian.
yeah, but I was a really angry person. I dated around a lot. Which was just kind of another way that I would like, handle my insecurity. I think that's probably why it is that I'm so good at helping people who are really deeply insecure, because I came from that same place. Just being a very angry, bitter, like spiteful person, and obviously that's not who I am at all anymore.
No, I would never believe you were an angry person because you're smiling, always in a good mood. Just and you don't take anything too hard.
Not anymore. No.
Like I said, I've seen the comments on your videos. I've seen the hateful comments on your videos. But you just brush it off or joke back, with them.
Yeah.
I, Shoot, I like that.
Yeah, it takes time to build up to that, but it's something that's so worth it, and to especially to be able to find even like joy or humor or like happiness in hate comments is it's something that can be done.
Okay, outside of like business, your influencer life and just things of that nature, what do you like to do? What makes you happy?
I love my cat. I'm obsessed with my cat. She's my favorite thing in the whole world, and she's probably hiding right now. I think she's probably in her bed, but yeah, I spend a lot of time with her. I do like to go out a good bit. I'm not like a huge party person, but I do like to go to clubs and like, dance and stuff, which is fun for me. And I also like video games a lot. That's something that I don't talk about a ton on my platform, because I don't necessarily want to end up becoming just like another video game streamer. I am gonna start a Twitch where I do some video games, but my games of choice for many, many years have just been, I only really play 3 games, and it's old school RuneScape, World of Warcraft, and League of Legends. And those are my 3 games.
Bread and butter right there. I was
Yep.
going to ask you what games you play, but you just told me. But well, the other thing you mentioned was dancing at the club.
Yeah.
What's your go-to move?
Oh my God, I don't know. I just kind of probably like, do something like that. Just
Shoot, I just move my shoulders. I can't dance. Like, I can do the whip and whatnot. That's pretty much it.
yeah, I don't like dance. I'm more like vibe, and I do spend a lot of my time just kind of sitting down and people watching. I just enjoy being in a high energy environment and just soaking that in, and just enjoying feeling like the bass and the music and the happy energy of the people around me, and even the angry energy of people around me if there's drama happening in the club, which is always entertaining. That's very common.
We need some entertainment.
Exactly.
And you strike me as the person at the bar, when they start drinking, they just get real friendly and talk to everybody and make like best friends for life in like 10 minutes.
It's about 50-50. I'm definitely like a social butterfly. I'm definitely an extrovert, and I make friends easily. But it's something that I would say I actively have to reel myself in about a little bit, because I can't promise too many people my attention and my time because I'm such a busy person. But yeah, it's very common for me to be in like, the bar bathroom suddenly making a new best friend. It's very common.
All right. Now, what I brought up earlier was mental health. It's something that I take very seriously. I don't mind sharing that I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder about 6 months ago. It's something I take seriously, and I know most people do. What are your takes on it?
On mental health. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned bipolar, because I was just diagnosed with that.
It's a funny way to bond. Like, you got bipolar.
Hey,
No.
so I was diagnosed with bipolar 1, which I sure that's the one that I was diagnosed with. And so mental health has sort of been a little bit of a roller coaster for me. So I actually was diagnosed with bipolar for a long time, and then I had a psychiatrist that was like, "Yeah, I don't think you have that." And then it was literally yesterday I was at a psychiatrist again, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I think you're probably experiencing that." So here's like a little bit of what I experienced with as far as mental health problems. So I experienced OCD, bipolar, PTSD, ADHD. So I do kind of have like a little bit of a laundry list of things. I spent a very long time trying to sort of be in denial about it, or be like, I'm gonna figure out a way to make it go away. And like, I don't like, I would say it helps me to some extent to be able to manage certain things, but at the end of the day, it's not helpful to have a stigma around something that you have. And something that was also really helpful for me was I found a psychiatrist that was really willing to explain things to me and to help me understand my different diagnoses and, you know, what was causing those things, what could trigger those things. And especially with bipolar, it's not as scary as people make it out to be. I mean, it can be scary, but it's something that is manageable. And you know, there's just there's a lot of stigma around certain terms, and also a lot of misunderstanding around certain terms. So to give a little bit of detail into what I experienced with bipolar is, I'll find myself, you know, just for the most part, just having a very stable, you know, fairly happy emotional state that will last for a very long time. And then suddenly I'll dip and I'll become very depressed about something. And sometimes it's because something happened, sometimes it's not. But when I start to dip, I'll end up finding myself, primarily my main coping skill is going out and shopping. And so I'll find myself going out, spending a bunch of money, getting myself to a point where I'm not in a good financial situation, and then I panic, and then I emotionally crash even more. And then eventually, you know, I workaholic my way into being stable again, and then you know, I get back, you know, to being normal. But there's a part of me, and this is the part that's really tricky, and that I think a lot of people deal with, but we don't talk about that too much, is that dip is addictive. And so occasionally I'll find myself triggering it on purpose and being like, you know, things have been good for a while. I need an obstacle. You know, I need something to take me down so that I can enjoy my life more in comparison. And this is something that can happen to people that I don't hear too many people talk about, is you know, sort of intentionally putting themselves into that dip so that, you know, they bounce back higher. And that is an addictive cycle, and it's effectively an abusive relationship with yourself.
I think that's probably the best way I've ever heard it put.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it makes it more, you know, I don't know, you can just feel the impact more.
You do, yeah. And you know, when you're trying to build you know, self-confidence or self-love, that's something that needs to be broken, or not necessarily broken, but like restrained. So because it's something that's addictive, there's sort of always that temptation. And so you sort of have to be in a position where you see, okay, I see myself about to self-sabotage, or I see myself, you know, about to just do something that's going to be hurtful toward myself, and I'm going to choose to abstain. And I think that that's sort of the way of looking at it that I found to be the most helpful. Is it's almost like, you know, an alcoholic saying, I'm not going to have a drink right now. I'm going to abstain from doing this thing that would be uncomfortable, even though I know that at the end of it, I would get this high. And so that's sort of the way that I've had to manage what I'm going through. And I have found certain tools to help manage it, one of which has been to go out and buy myself something every day so that I can go, okay, well, I got the spending high, but I didn't go broke doing it. And it's something that has helped me to manage to maintain my state. And so what I started with, the first thing that I did when I was really struggling with money was I would go out and I would buy myself a $1 iced tea every day. And that would kind of give me that high. And it's like I've also like I've spent money, but it's not like I spent a crazy amount of money that's going to put me into a really bad place. And now what I tend to do is I'll go out and buy myself breakfast or like a smoothie or something every day, but it's something that I will continuously do as this form of self-care, and to make sure I don't end up going into those up and down highs. But anyways, so that's very specific to my situation though. And so there's, as far as mental health in general, it's so multifaceted. So
Absolutely.
because there's a conversation to be had about mental illness and destigmatizing mental illness, but something that is sort of the other side of that is, once you've managed to sort of find the things that work for your mental illness, it's also mental maintenance is something that really needs to be focused on, figuring out what maintenance you have to do on a daily basis. And even if you're someone who is neurotypical, or you're not struggling with mental illness per se, doing things that are going to help maintain you and maintain your wellness and your happiness is something that also needs to happen. So for me and for a lot of people, the biggest thing that has been really helpful for that is certain routine or like daily habits that you do. And the really extreme version of this that has suddenly become very popular is that girl thing, which I think can actually be a little bit too far in that direction. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
It sounds kind of familiar.
Okay, well, that girl is basically sort of a bit of a wellness trend that's happening right now, where it's the person who wakes up at 5 a.m., does yoga, takes a cold shower, hits the gym, hustles hard for the whole day, spends their time alone because everyone else is just trying to take advantage of them, and then they do more yoga before bed, and they're in bed by like 10, and it's like which is it's I don't think it's bad to aspire to want those things, and it has actually been really helpful for me to feel like, okay, I aspire to want those things, but I think it's also a message that has brought on a lot of like perfectionism issues with people. And something that I've had to for example, we've struggled with a lot when it comes to habit building is waking up on time or waking up at a certain time and not beating myself up over the fact that it's like I slept through my alarms and now it's 3 p.m.
It happens.
Yeah. And so, you do have to figure out ways to love yourself even when you are imperfect, and not expect a perfect version of yourself either, regardless of whether it's caused by mental illness or anything else. Nobody is going to be able to actually aspire to, or nobody is going to be able to ever actually be completely perfect, and that is okay. And the ideal version of yourself is the version of you that loves your imperfections, and but also has maintained and managed the things that are highly self-destructive, or even like destructive towards other people, which we all have tendencies to be destructive towards other people at times, and that's something that we also need to learn to accept and love ourselves in spite of. And we're also kind of living in a time where if you are even slightly imperfect, or you have a history of being even slightly imperfect, you're going to be seeing people online being like just destroyed for things like that. And
See, that brings up the whole authenticity thing you mentioned earlier. I feel like more creators now kind of have to be more authentic, because what happens is a lot of them build up this whole personality and persona, and people will find stuff from years ago
yeah.
that shows their true colors, which I'm all for people admitting that they made a mistake and, you know, moving on, because I think that's the only way people can learn to be better people versus when you make a mistake. Now obviously different mistakes, you know, warrant different, you know,
Of course.
reactions, but like I think it helps people as a whole if we're able to move on and become better people, because when you put somebody in a box that they're just a bad person, that doesn't really give them room to improve in the eyes of
Mhm.
others and in the eyes of themselves. You know,
Yeah.
that's just something I've noticed. But back on the topic of mental health, I noticed while today people are more open about it and willing to get help, I still notice that among young men and young women, there's a lot of issues. I believe I read somewhere that depression has gone up 75% in young females due to social media. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different reasons why that stuff's happening, which and it's something that I've personally done a lot of research into trying to understand, and so I'll sort of tell you a lot of what some of it is. So, for one thing, we are not meant to constantly be exposed to everybody else's issues at all times. And so, whether it's through news or social media, the constant consumption is a problem, and conscious consumption is something that you have to do. Um, and and it's something that a lot of people that I know that end up finding themselves on social media a lot struggle with, is the idea that if they stop exposing themselves to news, or if they stop learning about all of the issues that are happening around them, that they're going to become less aware. And that doesn't actually happen. When you become more conscious about what you consume online, you don't become less aware. You don't forget that there are things happening in the world. It's just you have very little control over the things that are happening. And the best place to focus is, number one, with yourself, and then number two, with your immediate community around you. Those are the best places where you can actually help. But there's this feeling that a lot of people have of like needing to help every single issue as it comes, forever and ever. And it's not bad to participate in things like that, but it's things like, for example, the questioning of every purchase you make. Is this the most ethical purchase? Is this the most sustainable purchase? Is there any immoral labor happening here? And it's something that, to be completely honest with you, things like that only really affect, for the most part, only really affect people who don't really have that much money, and it actually puts them in a worse position to be afraid of the ways that they purchase. And something else is that if you have someone who's actually just like a scammer and they're a bad person, they're not going to give a fuck, and they're not going to be affected by people trying to cancel them or trying to take them down when it comes to content creators. The only people that I've really known to actually be affected by that are just good people who have changed, and not to say like that's 100% true. I mean, there are, examples of, people who had repeated patterns of, being bad people, ending up stopping being creators. But the majority of people who are affected by, the fear of not being good enough are people who are just normal, you know. No, and I'm also not gonna say that I'm the kind of person that's like, oh, I hate cancel culture, and everything to do with cancel culture needs to be ended. I think that there are actually a whole lot of benefits to it. I think an example of that is the way that the online consumer insistence of companies to stop like selling to Russia, for example, to help Ukraine. Like, that's huge, and that's something that probably wouldn't have happened, if it weren't for the power of like people voicing their opinions on the internet over bad things happening. Like, we effectively canceled Russia. financially, which is, that's insane. That's something that has never happened before. And it's a really powerful message to be able to, like send that kind of message globally of like, human beings are not okay with certain things happening in the world. And that's something that is, a huge benefit. I don't know if like, everyone out there would consider that to be a cancel culture, but
I would say that is a good thing too, because it does indeed take
yeah.
on, the bad people or the bad, forces and whatnot. It can be used for that, but I've also noticed that it can be used to harm, your average person.
Yes.
Made, I'm not saying they made a pattern of mistakes, but they made a mistake.
Yeah.
There's
I think a good example of that is, do you remember West Elm Caleb?
No.
Okay. Well, so basically what ended up happening was this guy was on, I think it was Tinder, and he would, he would go on dates with girls, but then he would end up ghosting at the end of it. And that's kind of a shitty thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a monstrous thing to do. But he became like it became a huge deal because a few people who had platforms on TikTok had gone on dates with this guy, and they canceled him. And his face was online, and he was like one of the top trending things on Twitter. And it's like, but we don't know this guy. Nobody online knows this guy, and it's, that is an example of somebody who is just kind of maybe a run-of-the-mill, flawed, maybe shitty person being affected by something, something like this, when, it's also somebody who doesn't have a platform to defend themselves. And that's something that, in my opinion, is not okay. I will call myself out a little bit here. I found out my ex cheated on me, and then I put his face on the internet. And I ended up taking everything down afterwards because I was like, I don't actually want to be this kind of person. It's something that, I don't want to do anymore, participate in this. So
Just want you nuclear.
I'm not gonna lie, like it's the kind of thing that's really tempting when you have a platform to be like, oh, fuck this person. But it's something I also did with that, I guess, to be fair, is I raised a bunch of money for charity.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, I raised a bunch of money for charity based on the fact that I have been cheated on. But yeah, and so it's something that I look back on a little bit like, I'm never gonna do something like that again. But also it's kind of a funny story. But also I just don't want to be that kind of person, But this is also an example of something where it's like, as a creator, you do kind of have to check yourself and your own behavior. And not weaponizing my platform towards people is something that, it is important. It's something I need to not do. And part of me is like, oh, he deserved this, but the other part of me is like, this is not an even playing field, and that's what makes it not okay.
So on that topic of using your audience and whatnot, I gotta know, what do you think about the whole Will Smith, Jada Pinkett dynamic, the slap, the table, all of it?
Annoying. Everyone involved is annoying. I think the primary thing is sort of a little bit what the Academy said, and I think I heard Jim Carrey also say this. It's like Will Smith stole everybody's thunder by doing that, which was really selfish of him. I don't give a fuck about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and I just really want to stop hearing about them. I see people comment this on every video about them, which is everything I know about Will and Jada's relationship I learned without my consent. And I think the thing is, usually I find, drama to be somewhat interesting. I'm someone who, I was super interested in like Dramageddon and like all the stuff that happened with like, Jeffree Star and everyone back when all that stuff went down. I was super interested in that stuff, but there's certain things where it's like, it's what happened was so mundane and the response to it was so extreme that it's just sort of frustrating to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the joke, like I understand it was a joke at his wife, but I mean,
Mm.
the joke wasn't nothing harsh or mean. It was kind of like something, a kid would say on the playground.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand Jada being upset, but it's just, I don't know.
Don't take it so serious, you know?
you know,
It's such a weird topic because years ago when you heard of Will Smith, it was about his movies or something cool, or something positive he did. Now, whenever you hear about those two, it's just messy at this point.
it is just messy. And the other thing is, alopecia is not, it's not cancer. It's not like he was making fun of her for like a disability. And, I can understand being, upset and offended, and, but it's something that really should have been handled very differently, you know? Uh, and, I say this as a Taylor Swift fan. Like,
Oh, she's I don't know what to say about Taylor. She's been doing the same thing since I was like in elementary school, singing about her exes.
yeah, and I mean, I love her for that. I don't think that that's, like a criticism or anything, but it's, there have been times where it's been like, really petty, but it's not too, it's not so bad that, she went up on stage and slapped somebody
No, no.
or had someone do that,
I mean, Kanye, he didn't slap her, but he kind of stole her thunder. I
Yeah,
forgot when that was, but he went on stage at the whole
that was,
Beyonce the best video.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've seen her, you probably haven't seen her documentary on Netflix, I imagine, but yeah, she talks about how like traumatizing that was for her because she thought that the crowd was booing her, not him, when he got off stage.
Oh.
So, well, she was 15, she was
Yeah,
a
she
kid.
was. She did start really young.
Yeah, she was a kid when that happened, and so it was especially traumatizing.
I'd
So,
imagine.
I,
So,
I don't think that she overreacted to that particular thing.
I actually can't agree. He was kind of being a dick. So I feel like that's fair. So this is the last topic on mental health. Then we have like a few questions after that. It's about young men because I know we spoke about young women.
Yeah.
I know a lot of young men nowadays, struggle with opening up about mental health, even though there are more options now and people are more willing to listen. I know a lot of men don't like to talk about it or admit that they even have mental health issues. And I think that also ties in with I'd say the lower performance of men on average. What's your take on that and what do you think?
Well, men's suicide rates keep going up like crazy. And that's something that really needs to be addressed. And there's also, this is a little bit of, I think a lot of it comes from sort of an issue that it has ended up happening with the internet and online communities. And it's both men and women, like everyone's kind of been, not, I think radicalized is an extreme word, but divided in a lot of ways. And so women kind of have, built these communities where they talk about all the reasons that they're frustrated with men, and then men, end up becoming a lot more frustrated with women. And sort of what has happened, I think, a little bit here is it is a lot more socially accepted for women to go and get mental health treatment. It's and a part of that, in a way, I think, was sort of maybe a sexist thing, a little bit of like women being seen as crazy anyway. But men are expected to not have emotions and to not never be sad. Like men are allowed to experience certain emotions. Like anger seems to be okay, but like sadness, depression, vulnerability is something that's not really promoted. And then what ends up happening all the time when men try to talk to women about these issues is, women will kind of come back with like, well, look at the ways that men have affected us. And that's not incorrect. And it's sort of a little bit goes back to some of what I said before of like, it's not women's job to help men, but what ends up happening when you have no empathy and when you don't care and when you become bitter towards men is, men get worse. That affects women. And I don't mean that as like, men are bad. I mean that like their mental health becomes worse. And then that affects everybody. And then, it's sort of this, just a little bit of it goes from, men or women get upset with men, and then men, get depressed because they can't get vulnerable. And then women kind of question like, oh, why won't men be vulnerable? And there's just very little communication happening, and there's very little, there's not that much empathy from either side. And I think that's a little bit of a problem.
I think if men and women,
Oh.
I think if men and women were able to humanize the opposite sex, I think we would go a lot further, because I don't like to use the phrase toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, but I do know that it is what it is. There are toxic women, there are toxic men. No one is better or more holier than the other. But I think if we just humanize people, like men could see women not just as somebody to sleep with and move on, just see them as a person, and vice versa, women seeing men as a person, not just somebody to buy them something or give them a free meal. And there's other examples. Those are just the ones that came off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I think if we humanized each other and actually spoke to one another,
Yeah.
in real life, I'm not, I don't want to sound like one of those old people that's like, oh, social media is bad, texting's bad. I mean, it
it's
does
created
lie.
a lot of real problems, and especially young people like us actually really need to acknowledge that and make changes based on it.
So I mean, I do think if we were able to, like I said, humanize the opposite sex, talk in person, get real social skills, because I feel like that's another reason a lot of women and men are arguing, because they don't they don't have the social awareness or social skills to understand like body language cues. You get a bunch of awkward people who know what they're supposed to do, but they don't know how to go about it.
Right.
And see toxicity on the internet and think that's how it should be, but it necessarily doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, and listening to each other is really important, and it's part of why like creating bonds and creating friendships in your life with people who are the opposite sex is something that is really important. And I mean, to be fully like gender inclusive here, even if it's like someone who's non-binary, someone who's trans, and you're not, like just creating bonds and understanding is really important. And something that also really matters is actually listening to what they say. And I think this is becoming a lot better when it comes to women's issues, but with men's issues, I think it's getting worse, actually. And so listening to men, when you ask them, hey, why is it that you won't be vulnerable? Why is it that, you have been so depressed, and not taking it personally is something that's really important. And a lot of the time, some of those reasons have to do with like oh, like I just feel like I'm constantly being ignored. That's something that gets brought up a lot in my chat is, and in my community, is this feeling of it's not that they feel hated, it's that they feel invisible. And I think that's something that really needs to be addressed. Just like more passive general kindness and acknowledgement towards men, not even just not necessarily even like active, the friendship or anything, just, somewhat more acknowledgement is something that would be important. And, it may be that, a man talking about like a fear of rejection towards a woman who's like, oh, well, my fear is getting murdered, might be something that's, a little bit, tone deaf, I guess would be the word for it. But, for those of us who don't find it, terribly difficult or challenging to listen to somebody talk about those kind of things, it is important to have empathy and understand, this isn't about me, this is about somebody else and what they are experiencing. And, having that conversation is something that could just really help and benefit everybody involved and create better mental health in general. Brene Brown is somebody that I listen to a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she talks a lot about vulnerability, and one of the things that she does talk about a lot is the way that men are just always expected to be strong no matter what, and if they're not, they're kind of judged for it or pushed
cast to the side and whatnot.
Yeah.
I understand. All right. So on a lighter note, because I know we were getting into some serious topics,
Yeah.
I have 2 words for you.
Okay.
I just want to see your reaction.
Okay.
Peggy Hill.
Wait, hold on.
Oh no.
Here we go. So I did a photo shoot. I did a Peggy Hill photo shoot. But okay, basically what inspired this is people have been saying that I look like Peggy Hill for so long, which I find to be a huge compliment. I love it. And but what happened was I did a roast me video. I do those maybe once every 2 or 3 months or so. I'll say I feel like I'm better than people, come roast me. And somebody responded to my most recent one, and it went super viral. But it was this guy just doing a Hank Hill voice saying, Peggy, what are you doing on this TikTok app? And I was like, it got so viral that it also went viral on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. And so I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, people have been asking me to do the Peggy Hill cosplay for so long. I actually bought the outfit a while ago because so many people kept commenting it, but I did a little photo shoot. So there's me with the propane and an apron on, and there's my sign that says "That's not free," which is my catchphrase.
Please tell me that's an empty propane pan.
Yeah, and I have a little paddle right there too. So.
Oh, paddling Peggy.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it. All right. This one took a little digging. All right. So I have 2 more words for you.
Okay.
Internal restlessness.
Oh, interesting. Where did you end up finding that? Is that one of my art pieces?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow. Where did you end up finding that? I'm just curious.
I actually found it today. Like, I was just literally trying to find something about you to just like, bring up in conversation. I scrolled all the way to the bottom of your page, and I think it was like one of the first posts. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Did you draw that yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So that's so interesting that you bring that up. So I used to be a full-time artist, and that's part of why I make so much content about, selling artwork or being a content creator, being just a creative person in general. So I was a full-time artist for a while. But when I became mentally stable, which lasted for a very long time, I've been having some trouble recently, but we're getting back on track here. I stopped being able to create art. And so that was actually when I made the shift to doing graphic design, websites, and that was also when I was like, I'm going to start doing coaching, which I haven't done coaching in a little while. I'll restart it eventually. But internal restlessness is it's a side effect of certain medications. And basically it just feels like you can't stay still. It feels sort of almost like there's something underneath your skin that's causing you to like twitchy and just constantly like uncomfortable in your body. It feels like just physically uncomfortable to be in your body. And it's also something that some people with ADHD experience. And so I made that art piece when I had been on, I actually don't remember what medication it was. It was something I was put on for ADHD that wasn't Adderall, but it caused me to just constantly feel like I need to move and just be uncomfortable in my skin. And I was constantly doing like this. And just it would kind of like comfort me a little bit. And so I did this drawing of, you know, somebody kind of being like this and sort of like, you know, in discomfort and just like feeling all of this, like, you know, like vibrations around them. And so that's what that art piece is. It's so interesting that you bring that up. So I got rid of almost all of my art and I don't sell it anymore because looking back at it used to just, it started making me depressed. Not because like it would bring up bad memories or anything. It would just be like, man, I can't draw like this anymore, you know, because I'm not sad. And something that a lot of people fear about medication, actually about getting better, is that they will lose their creativity. And that's something that I think has actually in a way been a benefit to me, because what ended up actually happening was not, it wasn't that I couldn't be creative, it was just that I couldn't draw like that anymore. But what it opened up for me was that I was able to explore every other avenue. I was able to do graphic design. I was able to just illustrate in other ways that were less intense. I got really into doing men makeup. I got really into fashion. You know, I got just into, you know, creating my own stuff in general through things like, you know, programming, you know, building computers, just all sorts of all these other things that I didn't have the energy for, and I didn't have the capacity for when I was depressed, but you know, but I would channel what capacity I had into those art pieces. It would take me a really long time. But you know, that's sort of a message that I want to give to everyone, is I don't feel as though I lost, you know, I mourn it, you know, I mourn that art style, you know, I miss it, but I don't think that being on medication, not being able to create like that anymore, means that I lost something. I think that I gained the fucking world, you know. And you know, it just means that I can't draw like that anymore. And you know, sometimes I look back on it and I feel you know, like I miss it, but it opened up all of these other doors for me, you know, getting well. And so yeah.
We'll be expecting a mixtape in the near future.
Oh yeah. Well, eventually I eventually actually would like to do music. So I don't know if near future, but maybe in like 3 or 4 years or something, you know.
Is your stage name going to be Market and Mommy?
That would be so funny. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna eventually be getting into music. So, you know, watch out for that.
Now, these last couple of questions are unscripted. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head.
Great.
All right. 2 things. One's a hot topic and the other one is just for fun.
Okay.
Hot topic 1 would be, if you had no fear of being canceled or judgment, what's your hot take that will get you in jail?
What's my hot take? Oh man. Yeah, I think it might actually be that I think that the conversations trying to be too politically correct about gender inclusivity have stopped us from really working on men's and women's issues. And you know, gender inclusivity is something that's just extremely important. But you know, there has been sort of this loss of just the conversation about how men and women are different, and men and women do generally think different, and behave differently and have different experiences. And you know, and I think that it's unfortunately also, when you do bring that up and when people do talk about that, a lot of the time they'll end up turning it into something that sort of ends up becoming transphobic. People end up getting into, the conversations about things like, should trans women be in sports because men and women are different, but, it's not. I think that's such a distraction, and conversations like that one are such a, situations where, things like trans women in sports ends up becoming an issue are such outlier issues. It's such an uncommon thing that has, sort of been weaponized into this very transphobic conversation, by the people who do think, we need to talk more about how, men and women are different. But, it's really an issue. I think a lot of it is an issue of nuance. And sort of another thing that goes along with that a little bit is the fact that every conversation online, every political conversation, social conversation is going to be run by children. It is run by teenagers because they are the loudest voices on the platform and they are the most prominent users of platforms. And so that is a lot of why we struggle with nuance online so much. But it's not, I think it's a good thing that, young people are so much more interested in politics and social issues than before, but, something that I think every political party and, affiliation and, line of thinking or belief system, no matter what it is, you need to sort of keep in mind that, pretty much every representation of any idea is going to lack nuance on the internet, which is going to lead to problems. And I think that's probably a lot of why, there's like this lack of nuance and lack of, everything has to be so extreme when it comes to, especially having conversations about gendered issues.
It's either one set of beliefs or another.
Exactly.
I don't think there's a single person on this planet that believes everything on this side or on this side. I think everyone has their, they have a few from here, one from, some other party or belief system. But I think one thing that we should all do is respect other people's opinions. Some people aren't going to like you, and you can be doing anything. You could be, the most generous, giving person, and you help orphans, and you do all this good, but they'll say, "Oh, why didn't you do this?"
Right.
You could choose a certain lifestyle that some people believe is cool, and then other people might think it's lame. I think that's something that everybody needs to learn to accept, that not everybody's going to like you.
Yes.
I've dated girls who their father didn't like that I was Mexican.
Yeah.
It was on their body language, but I can't use that to make me go out and hate, people that look like them, because, everyone's a different person. I don't like his belief system, but if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do.
Right. And sort of checking yourself a little bit and being like, just because this person reminds me of something traumatic and upsetting that happened to me does not, generalize the entire group. I mean, it's something that every single person deals with. And it's something that you do need to sort of just have some self-awareness about, and honestly, props to you for that. It's also something that, can be hard to like acknowledge or talk about, of like, just, being like, hey, this reminds me of a certain bitterness that I had in the past, but I'm going to, like push forward and be understanding and being loving and kind anyway.
You got to give any situation or person that you meet, just like you got to treat everybody as a different person, because say somebody looks a certain way or is a part of a group that traumatized you, that person hasn't done anything to you.
Right.
When you start doing that, you develop a lot of, bad tendencies and just ideas about people. And like, once you begin to know a person, like actually speak to them, you begin to see them in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah. And that also, that doesn't, it doesn't invalidate like struggles that you've been through either, and I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. For example, I'll find myself feeling really like bitter towards men sometimes for, because of things that have happened in my past, or like experiencing certain fears. But then, when I can't just exist in the world like in fear, and I would be living such a such a sad life, if I let that fear control me. And also the other thing is, that means that the people who did me wrong in the past are the ones, still controlling my life. It gives them power when I choose to believe that all men are bad, or choose to believe that, oh, I can't, go to this club or this event because I'm worried about, how the men will treat me. This is something that I would say I experience the most when I'm in professional settings, where I have a fear of like, oh, I'm gonna, mention what I do, and then some man is gonna take that as an invitation. It's something that has happened in the past, but I can't imagine like if I actually allowed that fear to live my life for me. And it's hard. It is something that, is hard, and it does feel limiting, but it's something that you gotta be like, hey, this is not actually the reality of the situation, because I don't know the reality of the situation yet. I just know something that happened in the past, you know.
Say you won the lottery for 500 million, you got to tell me 3 serious/good things you would do, and 3 just funny, outrageous things you would do.
Oh. Okay, well, as far as the serious thing, the first thing I would do is hire a financial investor or a financial planner to help me manage that money, because this is something that I wish more people knew and understood, is that you can be very good at making money, but very bad with managing it. And I'm one of those people. I'm real good at sales. I'm real good at business. I'm real good at making money, very bad at managing it. So that'd be the first thing I would do is seek help.
Oh no, no, no! I completely look. I relate.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, do I want to go out to eat today? Why not? It's on the way home, or huh?
Right.
That video game looks fun. Let me go ahead and buy it, and I just never play it. Stuff like that's happened like a million times.
Yeah, and that stuff, it scales with the more money that you make. It doesn't stop. You just start spending it on more expensive shit. Um, and so let's see. Other serious thing I would do, I would buy my dad a car. Actually, that's a plan that I have for this year anyway, is I would like to buy my dad a car. Because he's an engineer, so he keeps repairing his own cars, but I want him to stop doing that, and just have something that is good and going to last him, so that he stops repairing all these cars that he like cycles through like 3 like beater cars, and he's got
What
to
kind of
stop.
car do you see yourself getting him?
I would actually love to get him like a luxury vehicle. He deserves that. My dad deserves the world. I would really, actually, what I want to do is pay off the car that I have right now, which is a BMW, and I want to give that to him. And then I would go and buy myself something else. I would really love a Tesla. But yeah, I gotta boost my sales a good bit before I hit that mark of being able to do things like that. But I am getting close, which is very good. Um, and the other thing I would do is pay off my parents' debt. And that's also something that I would really like to do. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but I'm hoping over the next 2 years I'll be able to pay off my parents' debt. And so yeah, those are my 3 serious things.
Hey, look, you said all good things, and all of it besides the last 2 are just helping other people,
Yeah.
which is always very nice.
Yeah, I really love my family, and so I really want to be able to do things for them, and as things continue to grow for me, I want to keep giving, more towards them and then towards other people too, And actually, this is something that I've been having to work on a lot. Is this, I'll make a lot of money, but then I end up giving a lot of it away rather than keeping it for myself. And the problem with that is that I need to do things like go to the dentist and, I have a lot of other medical expenses that I would really like to take care of, but then I end up like, sometimes leaving myself with not enough. And so, but I recently worked on a plan in therapy where it's like, okay, I'm not going to give any money away for a year and, just, let myself take care of myself and actually learn just, how much I need in order to do that. Because I've never actually let myself do that.
How's that going so far?
It's going good. I haven't, since I started the plan, I've not been giving money away to people. And, there were some people that I was helping out with, like rent and stuff. And so I did reach out to them and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this for a little while, please just give me time, and so I'm, just taking a year to get myself in order so that I can help other people better. And it's something that's challenging to do. If you're someone who has a lot of fear around like, like other people not seeing me as being like a good enough person or a generous enough person or something. I think a lot of that probably comes from having grown up religious, but it's something that I'm working on. But yeah, okay. So as far as the silly things, I would get my car painted bright pink.
Oh, no.
I've always wanted a bright pink car.
like a was it Barbie or Polly Pocket?
yeah, like Barbie pink. That would be so cute. I would love that. And I see what other silly things would I do? I don't know. I think I'd probably just throw like a giant like party on like a cruise or something. I've always wanted to do something like that, just invite all my friends out and be like, all right, we're gonna rent a yacht and we're gonna live,
Living the high life.
Yeah, go to Monaco, like rent a yacht, and just like party on it. I think that would be really fun. I don't know, what other silly thing would I do? Oh my God, you know what I would do also? I would buy or start a coffee shop and make it 24 hours. I would like and make them have like good bagels and stuff and have it be near me. Because and I'm sure that it would just like lose money every year because it probably wouldn't make that much money during the night hours. But like I love working at coffee shops, but I hate the fact that they're all closed in the middle of the night, which is when I do my best work.
A late night coffee.
Yeah, I need that late night coffee shop, with like, a good bagel variety,
What's
a
your
lot of
go-to
coffee
bagel?
shops just have boring food options. I want options,
What's
So,
your go-to bagel? I gotta know.
oh, my go-to bagel, Asiago.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, what? It might be like a Northeast thing. It's just like a cheese bagel with cheese on top of it. It's really good. I love it.
Nice. I'm not going to give you my full list of things. I'll just like take one from each.
Okay.
I always told myself if I were to win the lottery, like an amount that large, the first thing I would do is I would pay off, like my sister, who's getting married and she has a kid. I'd pay off her house, buy her a new car, pay off my parents' house, buy them a new car, just like you mentioned. But my closest friends and relatives, I would pay off their student loans that way and not tell them just so they don't have to worry about it. Or if they wanted to go to school and never could, I would pay, for the next few years in advance.
Nice.
Now, one stupid thing I would do, because I like to mess with people. It's funny, it makes me laugh. I always said if I won the lottery, I would make it well known. Like I would go on news, make sure everybody knows I won the lottery. And then I'd still pay my bills late.
That's funny.
I'd get the call like, hey, We noticed you ain't paid your bill in a month or two. I know you got it. Can you just pay it? I'll get you on Monday. Just like that. But all right. So what are some things you would like to tell the younger group, my target audience, like say high schoolers and up, from I'd say 16 to about 25? What life advice would you give them?
Uh, don't wait until you're ready or to do things, whether it's, whatever you want to do, if it's, start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, start a, whatever, apply for that job that you want. Don't wait until you feel ready. You're never going to feel ready. You're always going to feel like it's not good enough. The quality needs to be better. The timing's not right. Life never stops coming at you. So it's never going to be the right time, and you're never going to feel ready to do things. So do it scared.
Faith.
It's the name of a book. There's actually a book called Do It Scared, which is literally about this subject. So.
Oh shoot, that's all I could think of off the top of my head. You can go ahead and plug your socials if you'd like to. I'm probably going to put them. Well, I am going to put them in the comments for you. Go
Okay.
ahead, self-plug. Do what you do.
Okay. My socials are Morgan Wright CWC on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and I also have another TikTok account for tech advice. It's called Creators with Confidence. So that's me.
Yep, guys, feel free to check out her channel. Make sure you check out all the links. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for having me.